Welcome in, everybody, for a little early edition. Sorry for the no notice early edition. We kind of had some things come up tonight, but we definitely wanted to get that DFS advice out there as soon as we possibly could. I got my man Jeff with me today. What's happening, Jeff? How's it going this evening?
It's going great, Mikey. Beautiful weather here in Surfside Beach, South Carolina. Week 7, we're going to be all over the good, the bad, and I've said it before, the Carolina Panthers, but I cannot emphasize how much worse they are this week, even though they were terrible starting anyways. So we'll get into that, but it's good to see you, bud.
Yeah, good to see you too. Yeah, you ain't kidding, man. That Carolina team is just getting worse and worse. Every single step of the way, they just kind of keep taking about 10 steps back. It's kind of sad. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, we'll definitely be breaking down with a lot of that here in a little bit. A little housekeeping stuff. Make sure you guys get that like, subscribe, follow us, do whatever you guys can do to help us out there. Join the Patreon at patreon.com/toilets and titles. The $3 Discord gets you the team chat. Then the $5 gets you the early access to the waiver wire episodes, which is way worth $5 in my opinion. That's like right there. And then you also get the invite to the Frankenstein, which is the funnest league. And then it just gets better from there. Like $10 gets you the free entry into the Frankenstein. $20 gets you one-on-one roster analysis, which is huge, especially around this time of year. When we start hitting those bye weeks, when you start needing to know, and maybe you can't get on the blitz, or maybe you just aren't able to get your question through on the blitz. So make sure you get on there, help support us, help us support you. We are able to keep this content coming because of things like that. And just make sure you guys go to toiletsandtitles.com. We got the best articles in the business. We got some of the best writers cranking out articles every single week. You really want to get on there, check out Chuck, check out Joe's Thursday night drops, and we got Joe's DFS lineup, and we'll be breaking that down as well later tonight and going from there. And make sure if you're in the chat and you're listening right now, and again, we're really sorry to do this a little early on you guys, so some of you guys might be catching this a little bit later. We got Nino. He showed up. He says, my guy, Dirty Mike, what's happening? Nino, that's my man. I love Nino, man. This guy is cranking out content. I don't know if anybody watches his show that's watching this show, but my good God, it gets better and better every week. Him and Jared are just crushing it. The intro every single week gets me all fired up, man. That's what the best intro in the business right there. Loving it, Nino. So we'll just move on from there. We'll go ahead and kick this off. We're going to talk about players that we're fading this week, and I'll go ahead and kick this off first. The first guy I'm fading out right now is Travis Kelce. I think Travis Kelce is going to be a guy that, even though we've been seeing him get the majority of the target shares, he probably still will, but unfortunately, this is going to be a lot tougher targets to catch. They're going to be a lot tougher to get the ball in positions like the red zone and things like that. San Francisco has a really tough defense. And that kind of segues into your first guy, doesn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm fading Patrick Mahomes. You mentioned obviously that they're in San Francisco. San Francisco has a great defense that somehow last week got torched by Marcus Mariota and the Atlanta Falcons. And so I think they're going to be coming back this week a little angry, a little hungry. They got an interesting new addition of Mr. C-Mac on the offensive side. So I think that Mahomes is going to be one that's going to have a difficult time playing there in San Francisco. He's 8,500 on FanDuel, so that's a tough play as far as that's concerned. Also, I'm fading. Now, this isn't necessarily a surprise, but he's coming off a big week. I'm fading Trevor Lawrence, home versus the New York Giants. The Giants' defense has been surprisingly better than we thought. Lawrence has his ups and downs. Like I said, he's coming off a big week, so I'm fading him too, just because I think the Giants are going to be a really tough matchup.
I like that fade a lot. The other guy who I'm fading this week is Mike Williams. I love what the Chargers have done this week, or not done this week, done this year, especially without Keenan Allen. When you're sitting there thinking that that Mike Williams is going to be able to get the ball a lot more with Keenan Allen out of there, but Seattle's had a really underrated passing defense this year, and I think one of the main reasons why they've had an underrated passing defense is because you're able to run the ball on them so effectively. And
right.
Yeah, we'll queue up because both of us talked about how we're paying up for Austin Eckler, which will be coming right up. But I mean, and so that lets you know how much we don't like that defense against the pass, but how much we love it against the run. But against the pass, it's pretty tough. So I feel like Mike Williams He didn't get a lot of targets last week. I feel like this would be a good week to play him because they're not going to have a whole lot of options, especially if Keenan Allen sits one more week. But it doesn't look like Keenan Allen is going to sit one more week. So that's even going to reduce his targets even more. So I think I'm out on Mike Williams as well. So why don't you go ahead and tell me why you're paying up for Austin Eckler, and I'll tell you why I think I'm going to be paying up for Austin Eckler, unless I feel like it's the same exact reason.
Well, Eckler, he started off the first 3 games. He didn't have a touchdown. He didn't, wasn't racking up the fantasy points. The last 3 games, I mean, he's just been he's averaging about 15 carries per game, averaging 7 receptions per game. So you can just put that money in the bank as far as him being the go-to guy for Herbert. You brought up Williams. Williams is an interesting one because you think the guy should be a fantasy monster and was last year and has been sometimes this year. It's just strange that they don't go to him more. He's a big target. He does very well. He does a lot of yards after the catch, but for whatever reason, he's just not the guy. But Eckler, we've seen, if you're not paying up for Eckler, and I get it, he's 9,500 on FanDuel. He's got the highest salary attached to him. But I mean, Eckler is simply, you just cannot go wrong with this guy. The sky's the limit, and I don't think that's going to change at all. He's going to keep rolling this week.
Yeah, especially against that soft Seattle defense. So that's where I'm that soft Seattle defense, like I said, you don't have to be good at passing against them because they're so easy to run against. You don't have to put that in your game plan. So you can just run them. That inadvertently runs down the clock on the game. So, yep, give me Austin Eckler. He should have a monster. I can see easily having 2 touchdowns and around 100 all-purpose yards tomorrow. So another guy who I'm going to be paying up for tomorrow is Dameon Pierce. That guy has been getting just better and better every week. He's definitely the number 1. There we go. Yep. Steve Evans saying he's a T2T fanatic. I love it. At Steve 1971. That's another entry, Steve. Love having you aboard, my man. But yeah, Dameon Pierce is just in. You got a Vegas defense that hasn't been like, they're kind of middle of the pack against the run. I think it says they're like 12th or 13th against the run. But it doesn't scare me either. You're going to have a lot of volume play. You're going to have a lot of passing ground play to Dameon Pierce. He's been getting it done. He has been double digits PPR points for 4 solid weeks now outside of the bye week. So get yourself some Dameon Pierce. Who's another guy you're paying up for this week?
I'm paying up for Lamar Jackson. He's 8,800 versus Cleveland this week. I mean, the first 3 weeks of the year, Jackson was averaging almost 35 fantasy points per game. The last 3 weeks, he's been averaging fewer than 16 points per game. I'm guessing that trend is not going to continue just because the Cleveland defense has not been what we thought it was going to be, whether it be because of injuries or whatever, and perhaps because the offense can't stay on the field as much as they had hoped to with Jacoby Brissett behind the center. But Lamar Jackson, I think this is the week that gets him right, gets him out of the funk he's been in for the past few weeks, and I think he's going to go off on a big week. I think you got a little mute there, Mikey. So
there.
There you go.
Yeah, my bad right there. Yeah, so the other guy who I'm kind of paying up for, I mean, I don't really know if 7,300 qualifies as paying up, but I'm going to be racking up on the running backs this week. I was Kenneth Walker the third. I just think this is going to be, Seattle versus the Chargers is going to be an on-the-ground game. Kenneth Walker looked really good last week. He looked really good with that breakout on the week before. Man, he hit that hole just instantly, man. He was there. He saw it with good vision, exploded through the hole, and, man, he was rewarded with a good, 65-yard touchdown. Welcome to the NFL, Kenneth Walker the third. But I really like him against his Chargers defense. Sans Bosa, those guys are actually pretty beat up as far as the whole front line and linebacker core goes. So give me some Kenneth Walker the third as well. So why don't you tell me? Let's go ahead and get into some lineups here. And actually, instead of getting into some lineups here, we'll get into Joe's first. Do you have Joe's handy by chance?
Yeah, I've got Joe's lineup now. I do FanDuel just because Joe lives in Connecticut, and I find this interesting. FanDuel is not allowed in Connecticut, so he does DraftKings. So his lineup, he's going he agrees with me on Lamar Jackson. He's going Lamar Jackson at QB versus Cleveland. He obviously agrees with us with Eckler versus Seattle. He's also going with Josh Jacobs versus Houston. That's one of the guys he's paying up for this week. I think that the Houston defense is a little bit soft, and it seems like Jacobs may be poised for a big week. He's at wide receiver. He's got Chris Godwin at Carolina, and I'll get into that much more when I get into my lineup because Carolina is just like Swiss cheese. I don't even know. I mean, obviously they're rebuilding. The trades are interesting, and I don't even know who would possibly put up any points in Carolina. But in any case, I think Tom Brady's going to go off. I think that's a good pick by Joe with Godwin. He's also got Mr. Alec Pierce at Tennessee. I think he's kind of digging deep. Again, I've bagged on Matt Ryan for a while. I might have to change my tune a little bit this week because I've got Mr. Paris Campbell in my lineup, but I'll get into that one. He's got the DeAndre Carter versus Seattle at tight end. This is an interesting one. I think this is a good pick by Joe. He's got Foster Moreau with Darren Waller out. He's 2,800 on DraftKings. He's 4,600 on FanDuel. I think that's an interesting pick, and I kind of like that one, especially if you're going with Eckler and Jackson and some of the higher salary guys. I think Moreau might have some production at tight end and get him at a value. Another value guy, which is interesting, is Brian Robinson Jr. For the Commanders. He's going against Green Bay. You know, he had 60 yards and a touchdown last week. He seems to kind of be the guy. They really like him in Washington. I think that's a good pick by Joe. And then defense and special teams, he's going Cowboys versus Detroit. And that's also an interesting matchup too, Mike. I'm curious about your opinion with Dak's return. I mean, what do you expect of this? Is you know, I hate to get into a hypothetical or get off track a little bit, but I'm wondering what you think as far as how Dak will fare in the first game back against meager Detroit defense. What are your thoughts?
I think if you're going to have a get-right comeback game, man, what a better defense to face than the Detroit Lions. I mean, so for me, I've been a guy that's been fading Dak as the years have been going on. I think he's lost a lot of his competitive edge. I think a lot of his the things that made him great are getting game planned out of the situation because he's getting, defensive coordinators are sitting there watching tape, figuring out how to stop him, and they're able to stop him. And he just doesn't have that football IQ available to overtake, like Patrick Mahomes does. Like, people always figure out what he's going to do 5 steps before he does, and he changes it up. You just don't get the same. You don't get the same situation from him. So I feel like that's a guy who's already on the downhill spiral, but I feel like this is a game that he can actually do pretty good on. He'll actually look pretty decent on. I think CeeDee Lamb ought to be on fire in this game. I think you're going to see a lot of production, but it really wouldn't shock me to just see him go out there and throw a stinker, because that's what Dak Prescott, to me, has been really good at this season. What about you? What is your take on that? How do you feel about that situation?
I think you're right. I honestly think the guy is poised for a big game. Cooper Rush has been, he hasn't been what we've seen like in New England with Bailey Zappi. I think Mac Jones should be concerned about getting his job back. Cooper Rush has been a good fill-in guy, but he's certainly not the future for Dallas. And I think, he's going to be poised. They're at home against a terrible Detroit defense. And I just think this game is going to be one. I can see Dak going for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. I can really see that, and probably rushing for, who knows, 30, 40 yards, something like that. I think it'll probably be a good week for Dak. I get why people might not necessarily put him in just because of the X factor of him not being there since week 1 and just not knowing. But I think he's going to have a big game.
Yeah, like I said, what a better situation, what a better scenario than against the Detroit Lions defense that's been given up to everybody since week 1. So I'll go ahead and go on my my lineup next. I got Aaron Rodgers leading it off. I feel like this is going to be his 5-touchdown game that we always see out of him around the middle of the season. I think he's going to he might finally have enough fire up under his butt to do something about it. And against the Washington defense, that hasn't really slowed anything down. Now, it's going to take a lot for his receivers to be able to catch the ball, but I feel like he's going to be in one of those I'm going to put it right in your face mask, and the ball will stick to the guy's face mask if they miss it. In this instance, that's the kind of Aaron Rodgers I'm expecting this week. Austin Eckler, of course, that Chargers-Seattle matchup's just too juicy on the ground. And then the flip side, Kenneth Walker on the against the Chargers, 9,500 and 7,300 respectively. So pretty high prices for those. So you're going to see why I've got crappy receivers now. I've got Duvernay as the wide out to lead off. I think with Bateman still out and against Cleveland, I think we're going to see Lamar Jackson have himself a game. He's going to have to be thrown to somebody besides Mark Andrews. So I think that's going to be Duvernay. Wan'Dale Robinson has been turning it up the past couple of weeks. He had just one target 2 weeks ago, but he had 4 targets last week, which he turned into 3 catches for about 70 yards and a touchdown. I think you really don't have a whole lot of people to pass to there in New York either. So I think he's can continue to gain some trust in that offense. You're going to see Daniel Jones start targeting him a lot more. And then I actually will be because I was actually had him also with Bellinger, but I was able to get Chris Godwin from my next receiver. I had Tampa Bay at Carolina. I think I'm with you. I think Tom Brady has himself a game. I think Tom Brady's going to be mad. I think he's going to throw fire. I think he's going to be throwing a lot to Chris Godwin. I can see a 2-touchdown game out of the guy. And at 7,000, I thought that was too cheap to ignore. My tight end, I'm going with David Njoku. He's just been pretty much reliable. He hasn't been doing anything spectacular. But look, I got to go cheap, so I got to get a guy who's at least going to get 5-6 catches. Give me those PPR points and hopefully give me a 10 to a 15. That's what I'm hoping for. And then on the flex, I got Dameon Pierce. I was saying, against the Raiders, they have a middle of the pack defense against the run, but that Houston offense doesn't have a whole lot of options to go through. So for me, Pierce is the guy. And then I think the Cowboys against that Detroit defense. I think I just really like what I've seen out of the Cowboys this year. I could afford it with the money I had left, so I went with the Cowboys at defense. We got our man Joe checking in. He says we got the get right games for Tampa and Baltimore offensives this week. I agree. That's what we've been talking about all night so far, is talking about how that's going to be so explosive. So, Jeff, why don't you go ahead and hit us with yours?
Well, before I get into that, I got one other question for you to see kind of where you stand on this one, and then I'll get into my lineup. But obviously, a huge trade with Christian McCaffrey to the 49ers. You got McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel now, on the same lineup. It should be very interesting. I mean, McCaffrey, he's not cheap this week. They got him. I mean, they got him above a handful of players that I like this week. He's at 8,700 on FanDuel, and I get it. The KC defense has not been the greatest. I'm just kidding. I'd be a little hesitant, especially to spend that much on a guy who's just jumping into an offense that he's not familiar with. I mean, what do you think about that? Is he worth the roll of the dice? What do you think?
I mean, is he even for sure playing? To me, that is just way too fast to get into an offense. Although I've seen a McCaffrey with the Shanahan before, and I can tell you good things happen when you connect a McCaffrey and a Shanahan. Just good things happen. If you remember Eddie McCaffrey doing it for his dad, Kyle Shanahan. So,
that's a throwback, man. We just lost a lot of young guys listening. So.
Right, yeah. So if they didn't know, Eddie McCaffrey, who is Christian McCaffrey's dad, used to play for gosh dang it, how come I can't remember Kyle Shanahan's dad's name?
Mike. Jesus. Yes, thank you. Good Lord.
Gosh dang it. It's my own name. That's why I can't remember it, because I can't remember my own name usually. But yeah, that's why I was really hoping Christian McCaffrey would go to Denver, because, the Eddie McCaffrey roots there. But going to a Shanahan made a lot of sense. But for me, I really want to get him in my lineup, man. I really want to get Christian McCaffrey rolling, just because of what the potential he has to do in that kind of a scheme and that kind of an offense. My God, you can't get any more drooly or mouth-watering than having that situation. But this week, I don't think I can pull the trigger on it. I don't have enough confidence in him being there for, what is it, like 36 hours now.
Yeah.
That he has a good handle and grasp on this offense enough to where they're even going to feel comfortable enough about getting him on the field. In fact, I would kind of judge them if they got him on the field. I'd say if your playbook's that freaking easy, then that's probably why you guys aren't Super Bowl champions. That's probably the one thing that's keeping you guys out of there. Your coaching is if it's that simple to express and simple to figure out, then you guys probably need new jobs. Give those jobs to guys like us who know what the heck we're doing.
I mean, the guy's going opposite coasts. I mean, it's not like he's going from Seattle to San Francisco. He's going Carolina to San Francisco. That's not a short move. I think over the long term, this is going to be good for him. I think this is going to be very interesting for Jimmy Garoppolo from a fantasy standpoint, because Jimmy's kind of the ultimate game manager. McCaffrey just offers that nice option to dump off when you got nobody else, and you couple that with Deebo Samuel, and then you got Kittle. It should be very interesting to see what happens with Garoppolo going forward, because I think his stock has risen now that McCaffrey's there. But I digress.
It's funny. I have him in the Frankenstank, and it's like, so I've my two quarterbacks, or my three quarterbacks in the Frankenstank are Justin Herbert, which is fantastic, right? But then I've got Baker Mayfield and I've got Jimmy Garoppolo, and I've been managing to win because these guys have been like Baker Mayfield. Like the first few weeks, like wasn't great, but he wasn't terrible. He at least was serviceable, got me enough points to where I was still winning the week. And it's just, I haven't had a quarterback situation that I wanted more than Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo. Now Jimmy Garoppolo with Christian McCaffrey is like, hey buddy, like I might've lucked into some gold right here.
It's tempting, man. I have to think that this is going to be really good for fantasy Garoppolo numbers, but I guess time will tell. I just thought that was really interesting, that move, and I guess we'll see what happens tomorrow. But to get into mine, I always do
real quick. I just have to say, like, just the one thing that I didn't think about, and you pointed out that just is cracking me up in my brain right now, is the fact that you're right. Like, it's not like it was so out of that 36 hours. That's saying he hopped right on a plane. Yeah. And the second that they made the trade, so it's probably the next day, right? Like noon the next day, where they got everything figured out. So he's literally been there like 24 hours, and you're going to put Christian McCaffrey on the field and tell me that you can run an offense around. Yeah, like if that will be an insult to your coaching if they put him out there. But no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, sorry. And it's not like he's moving like we would move. He's not, hopping and putting his stuff in the U-Haul and this, that, and the other thing. He's got a few more bucks than that, but it is a quick turnaround. So
I don't know. Christian McCaffrey seems to me like a guy that might have loaded his own shit.
Well, maybe. So in any case, each week I kind of do a regular FanDuel lineup, and I also like to do kind of the stack lineup, where you kind of look at games, what you might think would be the highest scoring one, and kind of go off of that. Usually you take a handful from the team who you think you'll score the most, and then have a comeback player from the other team that you would assume that they would have to throw and get some junk points for you. So I'm taking the Bucs at Carolina. I just couldn't come back with anybody from Carolina because, okay, maybe DJ Moore, he's cheap, but I mean, it might as well be you and me throwing to him. I couldn't even tell you anybody else in the team. So I'm going stack as my regular lineup, and hopefully it works out that way, kind of putting all your eggs in one basket. So QB, I'm going Tom Brady, 7,400, what I think is a pretty good value, for Tom Brady. He hasn't been that great this year, but I think this week he's going to get right. So staying along that trend, I got Leonard Fournette at running back, 8,400. Also at running back, we already brought it up. How do you get away from Eckler? 9,500 versus Seattle. And because of those two, I got to go a little value at wide receiver. Not necessarily with Mike Evans. I'm going with him, 7,600, sticking with that stack theme. And then going value with the other two, I got Nico Collins. That's my boy in Houston. I think he's poised. He's only 5,600 on FanDuel. One of these games, Nico Collins is gonna make a hero out of me and make me be correct. That's my boy. I'm sticking with him. We'll see what happens.
My dynasty leagues hope you're right. I promise.
The guy's a good talent, and I just a matter of if can they get it to him. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I brought it up for weeks. I bagged on Matt Ryan for a long time. However, I'm going to go that the Tennessee passing defense isn't the greatest. I'm going Paris Campbell. He's only 5,400. I had to try to find value somewhere. I think, Matt Ryan is going to have to find somebody, and I think Paris Campbell, hopefully, knock on wood, could be that guy. Coming back with tight end with a little bit value as well. This one should be interesting with Cameron Brate out. I'm going Cade Otton. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He's only 4,900 at Carolina. I'm coming back with my flex. I'm sticking with wide receiver. I'm going Alan Lazard at Washington. He's 6,600. Between him and Romeo Doubs, it's going to be an interesting one. I think Rodgers is going to have a decent outing, and Lazard is a good target. And speaking of that, defense, special teams, I'm going Green Bay, 4,500. I just don't think with Taylor Heineke behind center that they're going to really do anything against the Packers. So that's where I'm rolling as far as lineup are concerned.
Yeah, subpar quarterback against the defense has been not that great, but I think a lot of that has to do with Aaron Rodgers not being able to get off the field or stay on the field long enough for those guys to get much of a breather. I think that you got a really talented defense there, just a really piss poor situation going for them right now. So for me, I'm thinking that this will be a good get right game for Green Bay. I at least hope so, because if not, guess what? This is going to be what you have for the rest of the year with this team. And I just have a tough time thinking that with Aaron Rodgers. It's kind of like Denver. I was hoping Russell Wilson was going to get out there, prove things right, but now he's injured, so we've got that going. Yeah, we got a guy, Wentworth Scribner says, should he start Everett or Njoku this week in a PPR? Who are you going with on this one, bud?
I kind of like Njoku better. Everett, anybody on the Rams, for whatever reason, I don't know what's going on with Stafford this year, but Njoku to me seems like the safer bet as far as that one is concerned. Outside of Cooper Kupp, can you really trust anybody on the Rams? I don't know what are your thoughts.
Everett's Charger.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's early. It's happy hour, Mike, so I'm going to get back on track.
Everett was a Ram forever, man. It's okay. It's okay.
I'm still going Njoku. Everett just Herbert has not been, and I guess we're sticking on kind of that theme. Herbert, the Los Angeles quarterbacks have not been right. So Herbert recently has not been the greatest. Eckler has been his go-to guy. So I can't see Everett having more. I think Njoku is gonna have a bigger game.
Gotcha. And this is and speaking of, this is a bye week for both the Bills and the Rams. I can't remember the other teams that are on it, but just as a friendly reminder, make sure you still start Cooper Kupp and Josh Allen in your redraft leagues this week, just out of respect. You'll still get 15 points in a PPR, just for their weekend toss-up games and things like that, or for cornhole. You get special points for your quarterbacks when it's Josh Allen, and you get special points when it's Cooper Kupp as your receiver. Just saying.
So. Well, and it wouldn't be a week of dash of DFS if I didn't mix up one guy with another team at least once, Mikey. That happens seemingly on a weekly basis. So, I like to see everybody kind of catch me on that one.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's just so easy to do, especially with a lot of these trades going under the radar. Who knew Gerald Everett even got traded? I was like, who cares? It was one of those when he actually is seeming fairly fantasy relevant. A guy that I'm getting stashed in a lot of my not dynasty leagues because he's pretty well owned, but he's still available in a few of those too. Is Donald Parham. I've been seeing him getting more and more involved lately with that offense, and really liking what I'm seeing there. So definitely, guys, if you want to get on with us, but yeah, sorry for me on this one. It's also Njoku. He's my PPR start. Yep. He's my start in DFS this week. So, I mean, I really like Njoku. Again, you're not going to get anything incredible out of the guy, but if he accidentally falls in the touchdown, he's going to have a really good game. If he doesn't, he still has a fairly productive outcome. He's been having about 5 or 6 catches for about 50, 60 yards, which again, in a PPR or 8.5 PPRs, you're still getting double-digit points out of your tight end, which is not bad if your guy is when we don't have Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews to choose from.
Yeah.
That's about as good as it gets for your tight end position. So definitely, did you have anything you wanted to add before we go ahead and duck out of here, my man?
It just should be an interesting week. I think this is a week and a lot of get right games, especially at the quarterback position. I think you'll see, like I said, Lamar Jackson kind of have a get right game, Tom Brady have a get right game, and Aaron Rodgers have a get right game. I think that's, we'll see kind of that theme of the get right quarterbacks, for lack of a better term, this week.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of the ships get on the same path, and we start seeing a lot of more of the. It's not going to be the exact same as last year, but I think we see a lot more of the more familiar faces in the AFC and NFC playoff hunt, start to develop. I mean, not to take anything away from Philadelphia or anything like that, but I think that they'll get knocked down to a normal peg once they start seeing some defenses that can slow them down. Because I know a lot of people are crying for the undefeated season, and I'm like, it's not going to happen. The Eagles are going to hit a skid, but likely, you're looking at a playoff caliber team right there. So there's a lot, and I think they're definitely going to be able to take that division, for sure. But I think we'll see a lot of things like that go a little bit more topsy-turvy, back to normal that we saw from last year. So, well, excellent. The game I'm ready to watch this week, I feel like, is that Green Bay Washington game. Again, I feel like with the get right games, I feel like I've and it's not like I have a high level of Aaron Rodgers ownership. It's just I really like Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback. He seems to have kind of like my attitude towards things. Even I've had a lot of people tell me that me and him look alike. So, and I've heard a lot of people go up to him and say, "Hey, you look just like Dirty Jobs" on the radio. So, okay.
And the thing is, on FanDuel this week, they got Rodgers at 7,100, at the same as Marcus Mariota. I just find that interesting. That was almost be really insulting over the last few years. But I mean, I guess it's kind of par for the course. But that you can kind of jump on the week that Rodgers is going to make it happen. I think that this is the week.
That's it right there. And if it isn't this week, then then good luck, Packers fans. It's going to be a long, long winter. Buckle up, Aaron Jones, because it's going to be you handing the ball off to yourself and having to make dynamic plays to make those things happen. Or maybe you handing off the ball to A.J. Dillon. But that said, we'll go ahead and get out of here. Make sure, like I said, you go to toiletstotitles.com. You get the best videos, articles, NFL fantasy advice, content. Make sure you join the Patreon at patreon.com/toiletstotitles. Again, we got all kinds of tiers on there. The best one's at $20 where you get that one-on-one advice. But if you can't do that, just at least got the $10 one for the free entry into the Frankenstein, so you can see if you can beat some of us next year. I know a lot of us T2T guys are juggernauts right now. Once you get a juggernaut going on the Frankenstein, it's really hard to knock it down. So definitely love it. It's a lot of fun. Jeff, definitely appreciate you joining me this week. And also make sure you guys join us tomorrow morning, especially if you're getting to this late and you have a few questions. Hop on there at 10:30 in the morning Eastern. We'll be on there with the whole panel, I think, is going to be on tomorrow. I think even Joe will be back tomorrow. So we'll have all 5 of us on there ready to answer your fantasy questions, your start sit advice. We'll be on from 10:30 to about 12:30. So join us on the Blitz tomorrow. For me, for Joe, for Toilet's Titles, and everybody here, thank you guys so much. And you have yourself a good week and a good weekend.